Hold on a second. Somebody gave me this. They said, I liked your reaction. If you want to know more of the story about the band and everything, I found this video. You don't need to react to it. If you want, you can watch it on your own. It is very informative. I appreciate that. And I was watching it, which is why this video is on right now. What is this about? Do you see this down in the corner over here, or is my head in the way? My head's in the way. Well, we didn't want that, did we? But you see it right there. You see right there? Right there, it says Alice in Chains, Lane Stanley, final interview. Was it faked? Well, you have my interest. Was it faked? Why would they fake a final interview? What happened? I mean, I know what happened. The guy passed away. What I'm saying is, what would be the purpose of faking a final interview? Wouldn't the fans know? Right? It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. I'm intrigued now. I'm going to keep this one. Because I'm going to watch the rest of this. I only just got into a couple of seconds of it. I'm a minute in, literally, where the guys are meeting at rehab. But I'm going to click this.
What's going on, my fellow rock and rollers? Don't forget to hit the bell notification icon to be notified every time I put out a new video on my channel. You know, I really got into Alice in Chains back in 2009. The band had their record Black Gives Way to Blue coming out that year, and it was their long-awaited return following the death of singer Lane Staley. William Duvall, who had previously toured with guitarist Jerry Cantrell, was now the group's singer, and he had big shoes to fill.
Oh shit, dude. I feel bad for that guy. You motherfuckers are ruthless, dude. I can't imagine if that dude... That's like when Dio took over Sabbath. I know things. I know some things. People in Philly, just from what I heard from Joey Diaz, people in Philly were not having it. When Dio showed up and Ozzy wasn't around, that guy had to earn that shit, dude. Like, this dude's gonna have to do. But... I mean, you know, like the dude from Journey that took over Journey, he had to do it. The guy that took over Static X, that poor guy. You can't match up to the dude that was from Static X. That's what everybody says. I don't really like the dude's music much, but I do think he was a funny guy. You know, he likes some weird shit. You know, it's alright with me. I might not like all his music, but, you know, I mean, Jen drives me crazy with it, dude. She listens to it all the time. If I gotta hear, so I grab my shovel one more time, I'm gonna grab a shovel. BCHQ said, where's the spade? I hit it in the fucking... I hit it somewhere. And I whack her over the head with it.
Of course, I didn't know anything about Staley's, so I did what most self-respecting people do when they want to learn about something. I went on Wikipedia, as Michael Scott so eloquently puts it.
Wikipedia is the best thing ever. Anyone in the world can write anything they want about any subject. So you know you are getting the best possible information.
I read, of course, about singer Lane Staley's final years of his life.
But The Office isn't funny. I said it. What do you want to do? Dude, I think I'm just I'm an anti-hero, I suppose. I don't like The Office. I mean, there's a lot going on in here.
And everywhere I read about him, the same interview kept coming up.
Which
is? This highly quoted interview with an author named Adriana Rubio.
Who's that?
Who supposedly interviewed the singer days or weeks before he passed.
This one?
Staley apparently told the author he knew his time was near and he was crippled by his addiction. He talked about his regrets and how his addiction was all-consuming. He also discussed his complicated relationship with his parents, especially his father, who was an addict, and going into treatment, and would slam his Alice in Chains bandmates, claiming they were no longer his friends. But what shocked me the most about this whole interview is that big news sites were picking up on it as if it was gospel. But there was no proof it ever happened. There's no tape recordings or anything. So what was the story behind it, and was it fake?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? The guy didn't have enough problems? You're gonna fake some shit that came out of his face to sell fucking magazines? You motherfuckers are shameless, man. Shameless. How dare y'all?
Find out.
Really?
One thing that was a well-known fact about Lane Staley was that he didn't grant a ton of interviews, especially in his later years. His last notable appearance was on Rockline in 1999 during an interview with the other members of Alice in Chains who came.
It's too bad that I wasn't around. It's too bad that I wasn't around and older back then, dude. I would have gave this dude a good interview, I think. I'll ask him some real questions. You know, not the same 100 questions he's heard over and over again. But, you know, I want to get the dude to open up a little bit, get him comfortable. You know, like we're actually interested in what you have to say, sir.
Came out to promote their Nothing Safe box set. Before that, he appeared on Rockline the year before when guitarist Jerry Cantrell was promoting Boggy Depot. And prior to that, he gave a few interviews to promote the band's self-titled album in 1995.
I know that
The most
one.
notable
I know that one. That's the one that has God AM on it. I listened to that song. I remember the dog because of the 3 legs.
being the Rolling Stone interview, which I've previously covered on my channel. The link is down below to go check it out. The Rolling Stone interview angered the band as the group's manager was promised by the magazine they wouldn't focus on Staley's struggle.
Oh my God, look at him. Jesus. Not that I look any better with my shirt off, dude, but these drugs are... I get it, man. I do. I understand. Look at my face. Look at my fucking face, dude. This is just from taking the Percocet as I'm prescribed. I can't imagine what it would do. This is so upsetting. But I can't imagine what it would... Like, you see it. That's... Fuck, man. I wish I could wave a magic wand, bro, and just take away the people's desire to want to do that to themselves, you know? It's fucking heartbreaking to look at, especially when you know the dude knew he was going down and he just couldn't stop it.
Drugs. Of course, the piece talked a fair bit about it, and even the cover used the headline, "The Needle and the Damage Done."
See, like, why you gotta...
It was no surprise in the years that followed he retreated from the media spotlight.
Well, see, that was the point I was gonna make, man. Not to get on my high horse, dude. I talk plenty of shit about music and bands and all that, but you have a responsibility in the media. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You put this guy's whole life out in public for people to see it. Not that it wasn't already, but not like that, dude. How you know you motherfucker, like, you can't blame anybody else but him for his issues, right? And anybody can say whatever they want, and he had to be strong enough to be able to deal with it. But when you do things like this, you're giving him the excuse that he needs. And not that that makes it an excuse, but how could you do that? How the fuck could you write that up and sleep at night, dude? I couldn't hurt somebody's life like that. Why couldn't you call the man? You couldn't call him and just be like, dude, you're going through a rough spot, bro. I know we don't know each other, but some things are bigger than headlines, dude. You know, is there no soul in anything anymore?
I found it rather odd that he'd give an interview and talk so openly about his addiction, when at the same time he wrote songs like Grind, which I thought took aim at the media for making assumptions and focusing on rumors about the band as well as the drugs and them breaking up.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I'm asking you. Do you think this interview is bullshit? Because just from what you all have told me, and from what I listened to, I don't think this guy is the type of guy that would have sat down with the media and did a thing like that after they treat him so badly. I know I wouldn't. I know I wouldn't do that. I would be like, fuck you, dude. Keep your goddamn magazine. Y'all can kiss my grits.
Would he only reinforce their views? Rubio's interview was part of a book she was working on at the time that came out in January of 2003 titled Lane Staley's Angry Chair, a look inside the heart and soul of an incredible musician.
I know that one too. So why you using... Oh my god, this lady is killing me, man. You're lucky I was busy dropping out of high school at this time and getting enrolled in night school, dude. You're lucky, man.
Rubio would claim she talked to Staley at 3 a.m. over the phone on February 3rd, 2002.
Yeah, alright.
Due to the timing of the publication, of course, and the fact that Lane passed away in April of 2002, He could never publicly comment on whether the interview happened.
Wait. So you waited until after he died and then that's even worse, bro. That's even worse, dude. How you gonna put words in a dead man's mouth? Filthy.
Rubio's interview wouldn't get news coverage until 2003, and she would release an updated version of her book in 2006 titled Layne Staley Get Born Again.
Why, dude, you can't let this guy go, huh? Anything you could do to make $1.
Rubio, for her part, claims she spoke to Layne for 2.5 hours, but only 6 pages of her book is dedicated to the conversation. So what did they talk about for 2.5 hours if she only came up with 6 pages? Well, to date, she's never published the transcript or the audio of the conversation.
And she never will.
And in the book Alice in Chains, The Untold Story by David DeSola, he dissects this perfectly. Having read numerous interviews with Layne, DeSola claims the speaking style in Rubio's book doesn't sound like Layne. DeSola claims that in all the interviews he's read with Layne, he never referenced any songs or lyrics specifically from both Mad Season or Alice in Chains, but in Rubio's book, he supposedly makes 10 references to his own songs or lyrics, and Rubio's book also claims that Layne made reference to Jim Morrison of The Doors, which was another topic Rubio wrote a book about. And things didn't stop there, though. Rubio was planning on creating a biopic about Layne. She would team up with author John Brandon, who wrote a book about Alice in Chains with former bassist Mike Starr. The movie project got as far as auditioning someone to play Layne, but the pair got a letter from Alice in Chains' lawyer asking them to shelf the project because it portrayed the band in a negative light.
Fuck that. You made enough money off of them, man. Let them put it together. It's the least you could do. Fucker.
And they would not cooperate. In addition to that, Layne Staley's estate did not endorse the project either. And when David DeSola tried to interview Rubio about her supposed Layne interview, she declined, claiming she had other priorities in life.
Other priorities in life, is that what she said? What, like taking advantage of somebody else that passed away?
Notable because it featured interviews with Layne's mother Nancy and his sister Liz, in addition to supposedly featuring artwork and journal entries by the singer. Following the book's release, Layne's sister would comment on the book, confirming that she did talk to Rubio, thinking the book would honor her brother and hopefully make him realize how many people adored him and looked up to him, and perhaps it could snap him out of his addiction. She would claim that she doesn't believe that Rubio spoke to her brother, and she would reveal that she told Layne about Rubio's book and how the journalist wanted to talk to him, but he wanted no part of it, claiming he didn't trust journalists. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe.
I'm gonna like it because that sounded like it was well done. I can't fact check anything that you said because I don't know the band like that, but it sounds like you really did your research. I appreciate that. Thank you for calling out this liar. That slime waited till Layne passed away and then released her book. She knew he couldn't call her out and wanted to make money off of his name. That's a damn shame, dude. 2020 is here and don't trust journalists more prevalent than ever. Man ahead of his time. Well, you know what, dude? They did him dirty like they do everybody dirty. They do everybody dirty, dude. That's how they do it. The media don't give a shit. Dude. The only interviews that actually get done, that are done right, are usually, like, I'll give you the perfect example. Not that y'all would know this, but it seems like, when Sway interviewed Tupac, back before he was murdered, all this shit was going on, dude, and he was talking openly with Sway about how, I don't hate the East Coast. I have love for the East Coast and all of that. It was a beef between him and Biggie, and the media hyped that shit up, and I think contributed to both of their deaths, dude, and the deaths of many other people. Look, the violence is violence in the street, and it's always gonna be there, and it is what it is, but shit like that really does kind of, it fuels the fire, man. I really do. That's terrible. It's fucking terrible. I want to go backwards.
All the band needed now was a singer, so McCready would reach out to Alice in Chains frontman Layne Staley, who was deep in the throes of heroin addiction. Now, McCready was hoping that the trio would have a positive influence on Staley and help him get clean. In 1994 had been a disastrous year for Alice in Chains as the band started off the year releasing their hugely successful EP Jar of Flies, and the band was supposed to tour that summer with Metallica, but addiction and infighting forced the band to split up for about 6 months.
Now, this is when, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm probably going to have questions. So, it's not so much a reaction as it is, I'm trying to gauge, what, this dude seems to know what he's talking about. Not that I'm trying to put him down or anything. I'm sure that if it wasn't legitimate information, it probably wouldn't be as big as it is, much less be recommended from a fan of the band, but you never know. Now I forgot what I was going to say.
And with lots of time on his hands, Staley agreed to front Mad Season. Now, at that point in Lane Staley's life, he was living with a roommate named Johnny, and the members of Mad Season would drop by Lane's place and discuss the band and have him listen to instrumental tracks that the trio had come up with. Now, Lane's roommate would recall in the book The Untold Story of Alice in Chains how Lane and John Baker Saunders didn't exactly get off to a good start, as Saunders used to come over to Lane's place and fall asleep on his couch. Lane would take guitarist Mike McCready aside and tell him that Saunders couldn't keep coming over and falling asleep at his place because then Lane would have to tiptoe around his apartment. Now, that one little misstep aside, the band would get together several times to jam, and based on the great chemistry, the group had booked their first gig. Now, the band would play their first show at the Crocodile Cafe in October of 1994, and most of the songs played at their first gig would end up on Mad Season's Above album, but they
That's
also
the
threw in
one.
a cover of Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child. Now, since the band didn't have a name yet, by the time their first gig rolled around, they called themselves the Gacy Bunch, named after the serial killer John Wayne Gacy.
Of all
Now,
the
it would be
people in all the world, why a serial killer child rapist clown, dude? I mean, I get it. It's polarizing. That's what you want, right?
Now, since the band didn't have a name yet, by the time their first gig rolled around, they called themselves the Gacy Bunch, named after the serial killer John Wayne Gacy.
Fuck that piece of
Now, it
shit.
would be guitarist Mike McCready who would suggest the band record a demo, but it was Lane Staley who raised the stakes by suggesting the group record an album instead. Now, the group knew they had to come up with a legitimate name, though, and McCready would look back at Pearl Jam's first record, 10, which was mixed in Surrey, England.
The name of Mad Season originated, and I won't go too deeply into it, but when we were mixing the first record, the Pearl Jam record in Surrey, England, the people that worked at the studio said, "Oh, it must be the Mad Season," and that's the season when all the hallucinogenic mushrooms come out over in Surrey, England. And I thought, I'm gonna keep that title for something someday.
Now, the band would head to Seattle's Bad Animal Studios to record with producer Sam.
I know
Hofstede.
this one.
And
This is the
Hofstede-
St. Francis instrumental, bro. Don't fuck around. I used this one. I like this one a lot. It's sad, dude, but it's nice.
Remember the recording of the album, saying Lane was still working on his lyrics and vocal parts when it came to actually recording the album.
It sounds like, I did a thing, I put a clip on it where the guy's like, they're talking about if you know some shit is wrong, dude. I'm not a detective or anything like that. How I know what the right thing to do is? I'm butchering the shit out of it.
He would go into the studio by himself and have no one else around him, and he could operate the tape machine and do a little bit of experimentation.
Wait, I'm sorry, who
And
did
Hofstede
that?
had to.
And I thought, I'm gonna keep that title for something someday.
Now, the band would head to Seattle's Bad Animal Studios to record with producer Sam Hofstede, and Hofstede would remember the recording of the album, saying Lane was still working on his lyrics and vocal parts when it came to actually recording the album. He would go into the studio by himself and have no one else around him, and he could operate the tape machine and do a little bit of experimentation without feeling like anybody was listening to him or watching him.
So he's like me when it comes to doing the podcast thing, dude. Like, I know I'm not singing, it's a different thing, but I get very self-conscious about it. Like, if I know people are in the other room, dude, I can't be comfortable and just be myself. Like, I have to forget that, people can hear me. Actually, I have to forget I talk into a microphone and into a camera, that, this goes out into the whole world. I have to I have to forget that because sometimes I remember and it gives me really bad anxiety, dude. Like, I have a real problem. There are days, you know, like I'll wake up one day and I'll be like, man, what are we going to do today? I mean, like, oh shit, you got a podcast to do. Like, I do what? Oh, fuck. Are you serious? What? Why did I do this? Who thought that was a good idea? What a fucking idiot I am. Why would I think I could do this? And you go through that, man.
So Brett Ellison, who worked with Pearl Jam, also worked with Mad Season in the studio, and also recalled Lane's drug use at the time, saying Lane was not healthy. Heavy drug use. Such a sweet guy and such an amazing talent. We were in cahoots with his roommate who would get Lane off the couch and point him in our direction. And Lane would show up and he'd go back to the bathroom and he'd be doing dope back there and you'd wait for hours before he was ready to come out. He was pretty open about it. I asked him, why are you doing this to yourself? And he said, I'm either going to drink or do dope, and drinking is harder on me, he'd say. Now, the band would spend 2 weeks in the studio with Staley writing all the lyrics, focusing on similar topics found on Alice in Chains.
I really hate to do this, dude, but I can't help but wonder. I know weed is not a cure-all for everything, but how do we know if we would have took it off Schedule 1, maybe we could have did some research on it. Maybe he could have fell onto that as, you know, a way to get lower it down, because now they use it to get people off of heroin and shit. Well, it's to make the transition easier. I don't know if it actually helps or if he would be able to do it, but drinking is too difficult for him. You know, maybe smoke a little bit of weed, eat an edible or something, but I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be, you know, strong as what he would want it to be, need it to be.
Chains' records. Lane was heavily into reading at the time, and his personal favorite was a group of 1923 philosophical essays titled The Prophet.
Really?
And the book is even referenced in the song River of Deceit on the record. And in 2002, drummer Barrett Martin described Lane's headspace at the time, saying, Lane felt like he was on a spiritual mission with his music. Not a rock mission, but a spiritual one. And in the end, Above would be a very blues-influenced album, more in line with Pearl Jam sound, and less like what Alice in Chains were doing. Now, 2 successful singles would be spawned off the record, including River of Deceit and I Don't Know Anything. And the album would finally be released in March of 1995 and would be certified gold by June.
Damn.
Now, in 1995, the band would play a series of shows, with the final performance of the band taking place on April 29, 1995 at the Moore Theatre. Now, members of Alice in Chains and their production staff were in attendance, as Lane was already back with Alice in Chains at the time, working on their self-titled record. Now, that performance at the Moore would be released years later, and according to John Baker Saunders' brother, the band was at one point in talks with Saturday Night Live to perform on the show, but unfortunately nothing would happen. So what was Jerry Cantrell's
Fuck Saturday
feelings on
Night
Supergroup?
Live.
It's about the music, you know, and I think early on, you know, in a band's career, like you had mentioned previously, and, you know, I can use experiences from my own band as well, you know, the guys get a little jealous if you do something outside, and myself included, you know, like when Lane did the record he did with Mad Season and McCready, you know, I was a little pissed about that myself, you know. It's like, I don't know, if you spend so much time together in a non-sexual way, it's like somebody fucking your girlfriend. You know?
Yeah, no, dude, I totally get that. It makes sense, dude. I understand it. You know, you feel that you grow a bond with these people, right? And then if he goes and works with another band, it's like, what the fuck, man? I thought this was our thing. What are you doing? So I understand that. That might sound silly to some people, but I like how honest this guy is. I really appreciate that.
Basically, you know what I mean? You've got this relationship with him, you feel a little betrayed, you know, but as you grow a little bit and maybe a couple of days pass and you think about it a little bit, I mean, that can only be healthy, you know, and I think that they've dealt with that issue, and that's a good thing to see, you know.
I think they cop to it too. For all that jamming and for all that exploration, he's a better player, and when you come back to the fold, it's that much hipper. Without a doubt, wherever you go on a trip, man, I mean, you're going to bring that back to the group, you know. You know, whether that is used within the group or whatever, you know, it's hard to say exactly where that's going to come out. Whether you're a better player, or you got some different ideas, or whatever, or you just feel better because you did it, you know, and you come back with a clean slate, you know, whatever. I think, you know, you got to. Being in a band is a really tough thing, you know. I mean,
it's a really bizarre balance, you know, of like these 4 or 5 really strong personalities and really creative people, and you know, if most of the material is coming from one angle a lot, you know, even if that's what you're known as, you know, I mean, that can be a little stifling, I imagine, you know. And in my case, you know, I mean, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of the stuff that I've written played with Alice, you know, and then doing this thing. But I think you know, Layne doing that record was a thing for him as well. And you know, I mean, I think it's a very, very cool thing to do. You know.
Now, 2 years after the Above album came out, there were rumblings in 1997 that Mad Season was going to reconvene to write a follow-up record. Now, it's important to note that at this point in time, it looked like Alice in Chains seemed to be done, as Layne Staley still hadn't kicked his addiction, and his health had only gotten worse. In the book Everybody Loves Our Town, The Oral History of Grunge, it was rumored that the second Mad Season album was going to be called Disinformation. And drummer Barrett Martin would tell author Mark Yarm, "We started making a second record for Mad Season. We had 16 or 17 songs we were working on. We were going to do the same thing, have Layne be the main singer and lyric writer, and have Mark Lanegan of the Screaming Trees be involved. But I could never get either of them to come to the studio. And then Mike McCready had an idea to do a band called Disinformation. I guess Lanegan was going to be the singer, but again, he never showed up. So what happened to all the studio time the band had booked? So according to drummer Barrett Martin, the band divided the studio time amongst the different members who would go on to do their own projects. Now, one band member of Mad Season who was eager to get the band back together was bassist John Baker Saunders. So in the book Everybody Loves Our Town, they talk about his demise and how he was the first member of the band to pass away due to a drug overdose. Now, one of his friends was interviewed in the book and recalled, "I was in Baker's house probably a week and a half before he died in 1998. He lived in a tiny house in a suburb of Seattle and was really sad that they weren't finishing Mad Season's second record, and he was stressing financially as well. He was just really somber. And when he first came out of rehab and I met him, he was extremely excited because it was a fresh start." And in the same book, author Mark Yarm would speak to another friend of Baker who shed some more light on his life around this time and described how Baker had recently got into a relationship with a woman from Belgium who had gone back home and he was feeling really lonely. Baker would end up relapsing and would end up overdosing when his dealer was over at his house. But his dealer waited a while to call 911, and by the time the paramedics got to him, he was dead. And one of the last people Baker talked to was drummer Barrett Martin, who was supposed to meet him the next day over lunch to catch up since they hadn't seen each other in a while. Now with Baker gone, Mad Season's future seemed more in doubt, as Layne Staley revealed in a 1999 interview with Rockline. The members of Alice in Chains were promoting their Nothing Safe box set when a caller called into the show to ask Layne about Mad Season, and here's what he had to say.
Dude, hey, I got a question for Layne.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? I was wondering, do you have any more Mad Seasons in the works? And if so, are you guys going to do any like small club dates or anything like that across the United States?
No.
Double no.
We're not doing anything more. Actually, the bass player passed on this last year.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Baker,
yeah. So nothing in the works for Mad Season.
Yeah.
Fast forward now almost 13 years, and Mike McCready would reveal that he was looking into bringing back Mad Season with a new singer.
Never
and he would reveal
work.
how he wanted to re-release the Above album along with the More Theater show, in addition to several unreleased tracks. Now, the unreleased tracks dated back to the aborted second Mad Season record, and the eventual release box set would come out almost 18 years after the original release of the Above record, but that wasn't where the band's story ends. In 2015, the band teamed up with Guns N' Roses bassist Duff McKagan, Soundgarden vocalist Chris Cornell, and the Seattle Symphony Orchestra to do a one-off performance. The performance would be released, and the album debuted at number 4 on the Billboard Top Classical Crossovers album chart. In the same year, Barrett Martin revealed he was writing new Mad Season material with Mike McCready, as well as Duff McKagan, and that project would eventually morph into the Levy Walkers, which would release several songs over the subsequent years. So that concludes today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, if you have